Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope everyone is doing good today. And My name is Ifama Odunlami. I'm an immigration attorney from the Odunlami law firm in New Jersey. We serve clients nationwide, which is all of the 50 states in the United States. And for those who do not know me, um, I'm an immigration attorney as well as an immigrant. So it's my passion and purpose to assist my fellow immigrants in getting legal status in the United States. So when you join in, please say hello and let me know that you're here. If this is your first time, let me know it's your first time. And Yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Wave back to you, Jabby7. Busholami, good morning. Thank you guys for joining. Ndidi Obika, good morning. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. Hello, YouTube. Hi, Rafu. So, guys, I don't have a lot of time, but I had this pressing, urgent topic that I wanted to discuss in light of recent events. And I just thought this was a good time to highlight certain things. And I hope it's helpful to somebody. And if it is, I'm glad if you know somebody, it would be helpful to please forward it to them. So this past weekend, all of you, I presume, saw that P. Diddy video where he was physically abusive to Cassie. It was he dragged her. It was just awful. It was really awful, and it really ruined a lot of people's weekend. Just watching somebody go through that kind of abuse. And it got me thinking, because a lot of my clients are victims of abuse. We do a lot of VAWA cases, T visas, U visas, SJIS. We do a lot of humanitarian based cases, which are based a lot of the times on some form of abuse. And so the video that showed up apparently had been there for 8 years, but the hotel sold it. Can you believe that they witnessed this atrocity, this unconscionable, horrible behavior against somebody, and they sold it? They didn't report to the authorities. So I want to tell people who are victims of abuse. The first thing you need to know is in immigration law, abuse does not only have to be physical. I want you to know that. So we were privy to Cassie's physical, horrible abuse, but abuse does not have to be only physical. We've won many, in fact, most of our VAWA cases are based on other types of abuse apart from physical abuse. There can be emotional abuse, there can be psychological abuse, there can be verbal abuse, there can be sexual abuse, you know. So I want to discuss this and discuss different types of abuse. I want you to know, regardless of what people tell you, regardless of what maybe even other attorneys tell you, abuse does not have to be physical. And I'm going to tell you something else. By the time abuse is physical, most abusers work systematically through other types of abuse to destroy the person, so that when they they get to the stage where they're physically abusing the person doesn't go, stays and continues to tolerate the abuse. That's a cycle of abuse, you know, because a lot of people were thinking, why didn't Cassie leave? She couldn't leave. It's the abuse, the cycle of abuse. They stay with the abuser, they're afraid of the abuser, right? And Cassie's case also highlights a different type of immigration benefit, which, if she was not a US citizen, it would have been available to her. This is trafficking. Sex trafficking is some of the allegations that was levied against Sean Combs. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that. So I'm just going to talk about what we know, what we saw, and I want to talk about what the message you should take from that. And I want to talk about Violence Against Women's Act. First of all, it applies to men as well. It applies to children. It applies to parents of US citizens who are over 21 and who have treated who are treating or have treated their parents badly in the past or at some point. It applies to children or stepchildren or adopted children of US citizens or green card holders. It applies to a parent of a child who's been abused by a US citizen or green card holder, even if that parent did not suffer abuse directly. Definitely, it appeals. It's also for spouses who have been abused by their US citizen or green card holder spouse. So let's talk about abuse in the context of VAWA. Look at the power and control dynamics. That's what you should look at. The power and control dynamics. And I made a list of the common types of abuse. This is not an exhaustive list by any imagination, but there's always there's intimidation, right? That's abuse, where your spouse is hiding documents from you, destroying important documents. A lot of times we have clients who didn't realize there was a request for evidence on their case because their spouse had hidden it, and then the case was ultimately dismissed because there was they didn't know that there was a request for evidence, and the time within which to respond had passed. That's abusive behavior. They know that their spouse needs to get this green card, and a lot of times it's based on them being afraid that if the spouse were to get that green card, they might progress, they might get more successful, they might leave them. That's what I hear a lot from my clients. It's the abuser always says, if you get this green card, if you get this EAD, you're going to leave me. And then there's the abuser who pushes out the spouse to go work, right? Even though they know that that spouse has no legal authorization to work. They will make them work. They will take the money from them. They'll demand things from them, right? They will stop them from using the money to help their family abroad. Because a lot of immigrants, they work here and they send money back home, So that's also part of abuse, right? They also will stop them from educating themselves. Maybe the spouse wants to go to school, they won't let them go to school, or the spouse wants to take a particular job and they won't let them, basically frustrate them. They come to that job and cause some drama so that that person gets fired from that job. That's abuse. So if you or somebody is going through this various types of abuse, it doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't have to be physical. And the law is cognizant of the fact that abuse can be just as, emotional abuse can be just as debilitating as physical abuse. And that's why the standard in a VAWA case is credible evidence. That's it. Tell your story in a credible manner. See what happened. And if you have any information or any evidence, put it together. You don't have to have a police report. You don't have to have hospital records. No, you don't. Abuse can also be threatening to withdraw the petition that was filed already, right? Remember what I said, power and control. It could be refusing to file. You're married to a US citizen or green card holder and they refuse to file. That happens so often. I see that all the time. If that's happening to you, call our office, 973-993-1900. Let's file VAWA. You don't need your spouse to file for you. You don't. All right? And the good thing about VAWA, it's your petition. You are the petitioner. You don't need them. You don't need an affidavit of support from them. They won't even know that you're filing VAWA. As long as you qualify to file VAWA, you get a proof of VAWA, and you can, get your green card. Come out of the shadows. If you want to stay married to the horrible person, it's your decision. If you want to leave them, it's your decision. It won't make a difference. Because I have a lot of clients who, they complain about the fact that their spouses refuse to file, or they file and threaten not to show up for the interview, to control them, to make them do things they want to do, or to, show them they have power and control over them. And I'm telling you today, that's abusive behavior. So if you're going through that alone or in combination with other, behavior can get you your VAWA green card, right? So what other types of abuse are there? Well, there's emotional abuse, especially when they know there's something they can use to hurt you. Like you have somebody who suffered maybe some manner of abuse in the past, and the spouse uses it as a leverage. Well, this happened to you and it serves you right. You asked for it. It happened to you in the past, and that's because you're a bad person. And things like that will continue to happen to you. They continue to break you down with their words. They continue to break you down with their actions. They embarrass you in front of people. They, tell lies about you. They go to the internet and spread vicious rumors about you. And with my LGBT community, my clients, sometimes they haven't come out to their family member, and their spouse threatens to let their family members know that they're gay. That's all abuse. All right. So now sexual abuse happens even in a marital relationship. There's nothing that says that because you're married to somebody, you must have sex with the person. If you're being forced to have sex with your spouse, that's sexual abuse. If your spouse is, denigrating you, making you feel bad about yourself, shaming you, telling you that other people are better than you, or making fun of a body part, that's abusive behavior. If they're destroying things in the house, even if they haven't touched you, but put you in fear, that's abuse. All right. So there's also economic abuse. You have a spouse who, you go to work, they take the money from you, or you file taxes and the check comes to them, they take it, because they are the ones that brought you here. They're the reason why you're working. That's what they tell you. You should be grateful to them. And so therefore, they control everything about you. That's what they're telling you. It's not true. That's abuse. And the thing is, because of the fear of being deported, because also they'll threaten you that they're going to call the cops on you, or they're going to call ICE on you, or if you go and report a certain behavior, nobody's going to believe you because they're the US citizen. I want you to know this. If you're being abused, seek help. All right? Don't be afraid of the authorities. Don't be afraid of the police. Seek help if you're being abused. If you're in fear of your life, seek help. If you're being emotionally abused, seek help. It could be a therapist, or it could be a friend who's willing to listen, because the most important thing is to get your power back so you can get out of that situation, right? So there's also isolation, where your spouse isolates you, doesn't want you to talk to people from your country, doesn't want you to speak your language, doesn't want you to eat your food, doesn't want you, associating with family and friends. They isolate you so that nobody has, nobody can see what they're putting you through. I mean, these are just some types of abuse. I mean, there are many, many, many things that people do to intimidate, to hurt other people emotionally, psychologically, or even physically. Well, physical abuse, without a doubt, that's abuse. So if you want to file for VAWA, these are the things you need to make clear. First of all, if it's in a marital situation, you must, first of all, make sure that it's a bona fide marriage. You can't get into a sham marriage with somebody and try to file VAWA. You will not succeed. The first requirement is you must show that it's a bona fide marriage. And bona fide marriage is that when you got into the marriage, you marry that person to build a life. and not only for immigration benefits, because immigration benefits could be part of the reason, but it can be the only reason. You must have meant to live your life with this person, to build a life together, to be together, all right? And then you also have to show that you've resided with the person for some period of time. It could be prior to marriage, after marriage, and there's nothing in the regulations that say the amount of time you have to live with a person. You also have to show that you're a person of good moral character, which means you're a good person. And if you've had some, altercations with the law, you might be eligible for a waiver, a forgiveness that allows you to still go ahead to file your VAWA petition and still go ahead and get your green card. All right. So I don't have a lot of time today, but I'm going to see if I can take a couple of questions, and then we can continue another time. So let's see. Let me look for a question. Hello. Let's look. Mookie Great says, Attorney, I was scheduled for an N400 interview on April 12th, and the officer says she needs to approve my I-751 before she approved my N400. And after the interview, she said we need to come back. So Mookie Great, that's a great question, and that's exactly how that works. So a lot of people, first of all, if you get a 2-year green card, you have to remove the conditions, right? On the second anniversary, 90 days before the second anniversary, within 90 days of the second anniversary of the green card. Now, because USCIS is taking such a long time to make a decision on the I-751, it does come into play that you would have had your green card for 3 years, maybe even 5 years, and you still haven't gotten a response on the removal of conditions. And so what a lot of people do, and what we encourage a lot of people to do, is to file the N400 naturalization. When you file the naturalization petition, it's supposed to get USCIS to move faster because they have to respond to the I-751 before they naturalize you. And in the past, they would look at the file and say, oh, we have to respond to the I-751. But what we're seeing now is they're inviting people to the interview, and you go through the interview, and then they tell you, well, we can't naturalize you yet because we haven't responded to the I-751. That's what we're seeing now. So what you need to know, Mookie Great, is if you apply for naturalization, USCIS is supposed to respond to you within 120 days on your naturalization. So I'm hoping that typically within that 120 days, they make a decision on your I-751. Because if the conditions on your green card is not removed, you cannot naturalize. So if this happened April 12, you need to give them 120 days, Mookie Great, because they have 120 days to respond. And if they haven't responded within 120 days, I would suggest, first of all, you contact them, you do an e-inquiry, then maybe seek congressional assistance. Ultimately, if none of this is working, sue them. That gets you an answer, okay? So Rafiu says, how long does it take USCIS to consider a waiver for I-485 after the I-130 has been approved? Rafiu, it depends. Look at the case processing guidelines on the website and see how long it takes, because it depends on where you filed from. Sometimes it takes a short period of time. Sometimes it could take a year or even longer. So I typically tell people to go to the case processing page, see how long it's supposed to take. If it's over that, then you can, tell USCIS, it's past the time that you're supposed to respond to this, and then you can do all the things I told Mookie Great, which is do an e-inquiry, seek congressional assistance, or sue them. All right, but we're seeing that waivers are taken. Sometimes it's taken. Honestly, we've had some waivers approved within like 60 days, and then we've had some that has taken, that's still pending after a year. So let's see. I'm going to answer a couple of questions because I have only 5 minutes more. Answer a couple of questions from Instagram. And Asma says, this is my first time. Thank you, Asma, for joining. And Ayo Ayodele, thank you for joining. So let's see if I can grab a question. Thank you all for joining. See if we have a question right here. So Scroll Watcher says, please, my question is, my dad has filed for me last year and I applied to F1 visa this year and got denied. Will that affect my chances of my father's petition? It should not. If you apply for F1 because you're applying to go to school, typically USCIS will deny it because you have a pending immigrant petition and you've expressed immigrant intent. So they will look at you applying for an F1 visa as you just trying to find a way to get into the United States. So a lot of times, most times when you have a pending immigration petition and you apply for an F1 visa, it will typically be denied. So I'm not surprised about that. But will it affect the chances of your father's petition? No. As long as you have no inadmissibilities, your father's petition is going to continue going the way it's supposed to go. Okay? So I hope that helps. Let's see. So Vega says, sorry if I may ask, how long do you have to date your fiance before applying for the K1 fiance visa? So Vegas, there's no requirement that you date your fiance for any period of time before applying for the K1 visa. However, when you apply for the K1 visa, the first thing is you have to be a US citizen. Second thing is you must have seen your fiance at least once in the past 2 years. And number three, of course, you're going to have to prove that it's a real bona fide relationship. And so that's, and that you can afford, to take care of them. You have to file the affidavit of support, all of that. All right. So let's see. So Habi Ola said, can I get married to an American lady who's been married 7 years ago to a foreigner, but got divorced 3 years ago? I'm currently a nursing student on F1 visa. So Habi, if it's a bona fide marriage, there's no reason why you can't marry even though you're on F1 visa. The person is divorced and it's a proper divorce. You are single or at least able to marry them. That's fine. You can go ahead and do that as long as you have no other inadmissibilities. So being on F1, it should not be a problem. It just has to be a bona fide marriage. Marry them for love, for companionship, to live together, to have a home together. It cannot be a sham marriage, okay? All right, let's see. All right, one more question. Some of the questions I'm not understanding them, so I have to look for questions that I understand, because you have to be very clear when you're asking those questions, because I don't have the context of your situation. So Dejosu says, if you've been abused by a husband who has a pending asylum case with USCIS, is there help? So that's a great question, Dejosu. So if your husband has a pending asylum case, you can get a green card through VAWA because he's not a US citizen and he's not a green card holder. A pending asylum case is not a legal status for purposes of VAWA. So now you may qualify for something called a T visa, right? Or maybe even a U visa if there's been domestic abuse. So call our office. Let's see if we can screen you for those. 973-993-1900. Okay, guys, I got to run because I have a 12 o'clock consultation. But if you know somebody who's been abused, please don't be like the hotel or all these people in PDD's entourage that watched him abuse this young, beautiful lady. If you know somebody who's been abused, step out and help the person. Start by forwarding this video to them so that you can empower them to know that they can get out of their circumstance. All right? Take care. Have a great week.